Now we are moving on into the most crucial concept of this century, that is the anti-nuclear and anti-war movements. After we have seen the 1945 tragedies of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, these two are the places where we have seen the attempt of the atom bombs. So now the attempt of the atom bombs have destroyed the entire two cities, and for more than 50 years they have been suffering from the problems of various disabilities for the children who are born even now. This is the condition of the period of 1945. As the period goes on to 1970s to 1980s, the knowledge, the technology, everything has got advanced, and the disaster which is going to be created because of the bombs also has gone up to a very larger extent. And the background for this is that as soon as the 1945 the Second World War came to end, we got the two superpower nations groups, that is the USA and the USSR. Now in order to hold their positions, either USA or USSR start to maintain a huge stock of the nuclear bombs. These nuclear bombs are very costly, and they started to invest a huge amounts of money in building the nuclear bombs. If USA builds one, USSR is going to build the other one, and they have maintained a piles of their stocks of the nuclear bombs. And many of the scientists, the environmentalists, all people are scared and afraid if in case any future, because of the Cold War concept, what we are having right now from 1945, like the proxy war conditions or the military issues or whatever it may be, like if any issue of war is in threat, and if any of the countries like either USA or USSR is going to utilize the nuclear bombs or use the bomb on any of the other nations, automatically it escalates that no human being would be saved alive. It wipes away the entire human beings from the globe. So this is the greatest threat of the nuclear bombs. Many of the scientists, environmentalists started to campaign against the anti-nuclear bombs, and this made them to think very seriously. And USA and USSR have finally agreed to reduce their stocks. Did they really reduce their stocks? What happened next? And in this process of its journey, we have discussed about a concept of Cold War. In the Cold War, the issue became so serious that Vietnam War has been the tragic issue of USA. The people or the citizens of USA started to question, why is USA involving itself in the Vietnam War? Now, moving on to the actual ground reality, like US intervened in the issue of Vietnam. From Vietnam, we have to learn many experiences, like what happened in reality of the Vietnam. US was being very intensified in using all its energy resources or bomb resources, especially on a weak nation which is fighting with its own cost of the civilians. It is estimated that from 8 lakhs to 34 lakhs of civilians have been killed or destroyed or found wounded in the war of US-Vietnam conflict. And the another tragic thing is that USA has used all the stones unturned against Vietnam. The using of Agent Orange. Agent Orange is a machine, it's a weapon, liquid, which is used filled in drums and filled into the aeroplanes and sprinkled in the entire forest lands to destroy the tree context. What is the purpose of US people doing all these things? US people want to have a clear land so that the Vietnamese people, those who are fighting from the ground level, can be seen clearly from the upper elevations. So the entire forests of Vietnam, nearly 14% of forest lands of Vietnam are being destroyed using the Agent Orange thing. Agent Orange was called only because that is filled in the orange drums or kept orange bands for the bottles or tins which are carrying the liquid of Agent Orange. That side is known as Agent Orange, which destroyed the entire plants and the forest reserves of Vietnam. And moving on to the number of people got died immediately on spot was 47,224 people died on spot at the time of this Agent Orange disposal, and 3,03,704 people were wounded completely and their skins were destroyed completely. And moving on to the another danger weapon which was used by the US against the Vietnam is that napalm, which is again a dangerous bomb which is used against the Vietnam, a small developing country which is fighting for its independence, and Americans does not have any right to destroy a developing nation who is not at all an independent nation also. And moving on to the reality here, in America we have a law called that every embedded citizen should serve a military for a short period of time in order to serve the nation. In this context, many of the Americans who got enrolled themselves into the army have raised many questions after they returned back from Vietnam. What is the purpose of bombing of any weapon against the innocent people of Vietnam? What is the motto behind this of American government? These were the serious questions which raised by the people or the soldiers who returned back from America. According to the American law, you are supposed to make yourself enrolled into the military army. Then the people of citizens, the younger generations of citizens whose parents are not at all satisfied with the steps taken by the government, wrote an initiative like writing, "We won't go." The movement of "We won't go" was started, writing an open declaration to the government of US that we as citizens of US are being asked by the US government to serve by joining into the army or military. Once if we join into the military, we are going to destroy the lives of the innocent people who are staying in the miserable conditions. We are asked to kill the people, we are asked to bomb the people who are of no cause. What is the intention of the American government in doing such kind of things? This issue has raised the slogan, or the people of the young generations of USA started to question the action of US government and involving themselves very actively in the Vietnam War. This has escalated completely the entire global scenario, and even UN started to question the actions of US. In this complete mounting pressure against US, the US government finally decided in 1975 to leave the ground of Vietnam and come back, and without any condition they are going to leave the ground and bring back all the soldiers, all the military bags back into their lands and leaving Vietnam to at its own cause. In this way, the Vietnam War has been a serious example of how far the extremities will go if we start to use any dangerous weapons, and what would be the impact of this. We have lost 30,000 Vietnamese civilians who were serious loss for us. America did not experience any civilian loss, but many of the military people have been lost in the conditions of the war conflict. So any issue where the nuclear weapons or dangerous weapons are utilized is going to be a serious threat to the globe. So what are the other steps taken by the governments of USA and USSR to resolve and to stop the emerging nuclear pile stocks of the arms? The Vietnam War has provided us the real picture of the scenario of the growing complexities of the nuclear weapons. If in case if we use any of the dangerous weapons against each other, what would be the situation of us? Finally, after the USA and USSR agreed to come to a conclusion and to settle the disputes peacefully, like to end the nuclear arsenal through the treaties. In the final course of its journey, they have come to end up the Cold War scenario and to reduce their nuclear pile stocks. They have signed two agreements, that is, one is the SALT agreement, that is strategic arms limitation treaty. Strategic arms limitation treaty was the other one. The other one is moving to the another major agreement which was made was the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. Now, the SALT or the START both initiates for us that the important arms which are very dangerous in the context, which we have seen the example of Vietnam War, should be controlled and should not be escalated more, and many of the companies countries like Britain, France, UK, all these countries are started to urge more and more in order to have a hold on the group of the say that they also have the nuclear weapons. Even China in Asia emerging into the nuclear power country, Iran, Iraq, all these countries have asked to establish their own nuclear weapons in order to hold a say that the country should get scared of the other nations and to have a word to say upper hand. In this way, it has turned into an unethical issue, but finally, even though it was signed in 1991, the treaties, it came into implementation only in 2001. Even though if it was late, but 80% of the stocks available at that point of time were cut to the reduction process, and as soon as in 1991 the USSR signed the treaty, was forced or met with the change of Russia and got disbanded itself and Russia into 7 other independent nations. Later Russia took over the charge, but the Cold War concept has seriously came to an end. But the wars did not come into an end. There were serious wars between Iran and Iraq. There were serious risings of copycats in various places, and the Arab nations fighting with each other. This violence has not come down, but yes, the Cold War's context has come down very seriously. At the same point of time, in the 20th century, we have witnessed many changes which we have never thought. We have seen the extremities, and for us to have a live example of what are the nuclear weapons going to be effect for us, it happened in a plant of Chernobyl in Russia, where it was burned and the proper measures were not taken. Many of the people have died on the spot, and it has spoiled the entire atmosphere, and for many years the European countries were facing that difficulty. So it gave a live example for us of the Chernobyl incident that which happened, that if anything happens with the nuclear reactors, we are not going to do or can't stop any of the reactions because it influences the entire atmosphere also, and we can't change the atmosphere at any point of time. So it has given a live example of the changes or the effects which the nuclear things are going to give for us. We have seen a live example recently in 2011, this tsunami Fukushima nuclear plant, which has escalated the nuclear reactors in Japan, which created tragedy for them, but thank God that they were able to control it in less than 3 days of time. But even today, they have some issues of the radioactive elements releasing outside, and people were get scared in Japan at that moment of time. So the examples of Chernobyl and the examples of Fukushima have provided a clear idea for us, like we have to take a strong stand against the nuclear weapons. Then only our world or the globe will sustain. And this has escalated many of the environmental movements, which will discuss globalization, new liberalization, and the global movements against the environment changes which are happening in the present scenario.